From a modern perspective, the Anglo-Saxon or Old English period is characterized by a conversion from paganism to Christianity. The result upon literature of the time is a profound one. The language of their writing shifts from a runic script to a variation of the Latin alphabet, known as the Old English alphabet. The writings of the time consist of heroism and church writings. The epic poem Beowulf is a shining example of a mix between pagan and Christian influences. The story follows the titular character as he saves King Hrothgar and his men from a creature besieging their great hall. Beowulf rips the monster Grendel's arm off at the shoulder. Mortally wounded, the creature retreats, but this draws the ire of Grendel's mother, who attacks the great hall and prompts Beowulf to pursue. Eventually, Beowulf manages to kill Grendel's mother with a massive sword he finds in her lair. Cutting the head off Grendel's corpse, the blade disintegrates. Beowulf returns victorious to King Hrothgar with the creature's head in the hilt. Beowulf then sails home to Geatland, where he becomes king. 50 years later, a dragon attacks and he goes to face it. He slays the dragon but perishes in the battle. While the setting of the story lends to an obvious pagan background, Christian themes are woven throughout the poem. For instance, it is stated that the monster Grendel is a descendant of Cain, who slew his brother Abel in the biblical narrative of Genesis. Also, the symbol of the dragon cannot be ignored, as one of the most prominent depictions of the serpent or devil in Christian religion. There is a great deal of uncertainty surrounding the exact origins and meaning of the epic poem, consistent with other examples of literature from this time period. Lacking a named author or date of composition, these works provide plenty of room for interpretation. Beowulf depicts its characters in a time before the conversion to Christianity, yet it is unknown if it was freshly written by converted Saxons as a fable on pre-converted life, or if it was passed on through oral tradition, and finally was able to take form on paper later on. One interesting technique employed throughout the poem, which unlike modern poetry relies on alliteration, is the use of a kenning. A kenning is the replacement of a typical word with a specific phrase. The word king is replaced by ring giver. This allowed the author to continue their alliteration while providing a description of an otherwise standard noun. The Battle of Maldon is much closer to an actual account than Beowulf. It lacks any of the fantastical elements present in the formal entry, replacing that with concretized detail about the battle. It is therefore believed that the amount of time between the actual battle and the time the poem was written cannot be very long. The main source of poetry attributed to the church are found in the Exeter Book, a codex of Old English poetry. Writings born of the Catholic Church are much more overt in their meanings and symbols than heroic text. The previous Anglo-Saxon poems had a mixture of elements of paganism and Christianity, but church writings did not. A strong similarity, however, is found in the conventions of their writing. The poetry found in The Wanderer, The Dream of the Rood, and The Christ feature items such as a solitary man reflecting on God, a dream about the cross of Jesus, and reflections upon the life of Christ, respectively. One interesting poem of note is Caedmon's Hymn, a short poem with the named author Caedmon. According to written accounts, he was an illiterate cowherder who sang this poem after having a revelation in a dream. He sang this poem in words he himself did not understand. In English, it reads, "Now we must honor the guardian of heaven, the might of the architect and his purpose, the work of the Father of glory, as he, the eternal Lord, established the beginning of wonders. He first created for the children of men heaven as a roof, the holy Creator, then the guardian of mankind, the eternal Lord afterwards appointed the middle earth, the lands for men, the Lord Almighty." End quote. The last noteworthy mention is the Bayeux Tapestry, a 240 feet long embroidery, which depicts the Battle of Hastings, a decisive battle of the Norman conquest of England. The Norman rule of England ends the discussion of the Old English Anglo-Saxon period,